Today on this 2011 Ford F-250 Super Duty, we're going to show you the Firestone Level Command II, part number F-2158. We have our gauge hooked up to our dashboard here. We'll go ahead and show you how it operates. A very simple device. Push the button up, increases the air pressure. You can hear the pump go on. Now this switch will do both air springs at once. This does not give you individual control. Alright, now it pumps air. We'll go ahead and push the button down and release the air pressure. Now this is not limited to use of air springs. You can also use this kit with up to 1 gallon tanks as well. Now it's a good idea to leave about 10 pounds of air in the bags at all times. Okay, we'll go ahead and show you the parts that come with the kit. This is a compressor right here that powers the system. We have a gauge right here that allows you to add or reduce air to the air springs. We have a lighted built-in gauge. Airline tubing for the upgrade to the air springs. Wire harness that gets power from the battery and sends power to our compressor and to our switch here as well. We got a small parts bag with some hardware to attach our compressor and our gauge, plus some zip ties, as well as some quick splice connectors to make some wire connections too. On the intake, there's a filter that goes with it too. There's one filter already in here, and 2 spares come with it. Next, we'll go ahead and show you how we installed the Firestone Level 2 command. All right, first off, we'll find a location for air compressor. We're actually going to mount ours to the truck bed just behind the cab. So we're going to run ours up about right in this direction. We'll clamp it in place and mark and drill some holes. All right, now we took ours and clamped it in position right here. We'll go ahead and drill up 2 lower holes using a bit that matches the bushing right here. We'll go ahead and mark fur holes to drill out. Now we got our pilot holes drilled out. Now we'll go ahead and go up to a 3/16 drill bit for our final hole size. All right, let's go ahead and install our hardware, which will be a fine thread bolt that uses a 1/4 inch Phillips head screwdriver. We'll run that along with a flat washer, and we'll run that through our compressor and through the hole we drilled. On the other side, we'll get a flat washer and a nut. This will be a small lock nut that goes on the outside here. Get this one started. Then we'll add our second bolt in for the other hole. Now we'll tighten these down. We're using a Phillips head screwdriver and a 3/8 wrench. Okay. Now we just want this to be snug. We don't want it super tight. Then we'll mark and drill our holes, just like we did before, leaving the pump in place this time. Now we'll go ahead and start and work with our wiring. First up, our black wire at the ring terminal. I'm going to ground it to the sheet metal right here. Now I do give you a nut and bolt fastener for that purpose, but I'm going to use a self-tapping screw. I'm using a self-tapping screw that uses a 5/16 nut driver. I'll drill it out first and then add my wire. Next up is a red wire from the compressor. That actually hooks up to the orange wire with the supplied wire harness. These just simply push together. Then I like to add some electrical tape to help protect the connection. Our orange wire leads up to this relay right here and our red and white wires. We'll take the other end of our red and white wires, which contains the fuse holder, and this end that goes up to our controller that goes in the cab. So we'll go ahead and route those up towards the front, up into the engine compartment up by the battery for now. All right, now we'll go ahead and show you routed our wires. Here's the compressor here. Went up and zip tied it to the bodywork here, and just worked our way through the bodywork alongside and underneath the doors. Ran it through some openings to help hold the wire up. This is our relay right here. It does come with the hardware to install it, nut and bolt assembly. However, I used a regular self-tapping screw like I used earlier for the ground. And where it wasn't convenient to zip tie our wires, I used some extra loom clamps that don't come in the kit. I used part number A0250, and along with some more self-tapping screws. And just ran our wires up, zip tied where we could, used our loom clamp here, zip tied up by the body mount. Went to this cable right here. Once we got the engine compartment, we basically just routed up through here and followed the factory wire harness going up towards the top. Well, then you can reach down and pull the wire up. Now, a truck was originally equipped with airbags in the previous install with a manual inflation below the bumper and in front of the hitch. We're actually going to take these two lines from each airbag and we're going to run these up towards the compressor and put a T between the two. Disconnect them, push down the ring here. It helps to use a little 1/4-inch wrench, a little bit better grip on it, and pull out the lines. Now we'll go ahead and route these up towards the front of the truck. Here's our two ends for my airbags. I like to put fresh ends on them by using a tubing cutter. Make sure you got a nice square edge on it. I'm using part number F9009 from Firestone. We'll take the T that comes with the kit. We'll push into the fitting till it stops, then push one more time. Same thing with our other line here. Here's our new airline tubing. We'll go ahead and run up towards the front. To run our airline in, we're going to make a hole in our grommet right here. I'm using a pocket knife. There's a round thing right here. It's like a plug. So we'll go ahead and pull that out. Once we have the cap out of the way, this is part of the tube that goes through to the other side. It's really hard to see on the outside, but we just took the grommet and pulled it back a little bit to the inside and pulled out that tube, and we'll just cut off the end. And then we can go ahead and put our grommet back into place. Now, to help pull our line from the inside to the outside, I'm going to use an old piece of airline tubing here. This can also be any piece of wire or material that can hold its shape as you run it through. Okay, let's go ahead and grab it from the outside now. This is my old airline tubing. Here's my new stuff right here. Let's go ahead and connect the two together using some electrical tape. I'll also pull my white wire here from the compressor. Let's go ahead and add that guy into place as well. Sweet. All right, next we'll go ahead and work with our gauge here for a moment. We need to find a location for it. This is going to be personal preference. In this case, we're going to put ours on a dash on this side. So now we know where we're going to put it. We'll go ahead and cut our airline tubing to length. Maybe just a little bit extra in case we have to make some adjustments. I'll go ahead and attach that to my gauge now. What I need to do is heat up this end of the airline tubing by dipping it in some hot water for a few minutes. That'll make it softer, then we can push it on the barb fitting. All right, next we'll go ahead and work with our white wire we pulled in as well. This is going to connect up to another white wire, which originates right here. Unfortunately, there's two white wires. This wire here, just below the barb fitting, is one we'll use. And that's going to get connected to our white wire from the compressor. I'll go ahead and add some little extra protection with some electrical tape as well. We'll move on to some more pre-assembly for wire harness. Now, our remaining white wire here is going to go to ground, so that means some sheet metal underneath the dash. This part is not going to work. So we're going to cut it off and replace it with the provided ring terminal for this purpose. Okay, leave this alone for now. Now for our illumination circuit, it's going to be one of these two black wires here. For our light bulb inside, doesn't matter which wire is ground. So we'll go ahead and take one of the black wires and connect it up to our white wire. Cut off our excess, which won't be much. And we'll use provided quick splice connector for our ground. We'll take our quick splice connector, snap it over to white wire, then take our brown wire, slide it up next to it, make sure it goes all the way through. Then we'll squeeze the middle clip with some pliers. That'll make the connection between the two. Then we'll snap the cap back over the top. Now our last black wire from our bulb needs to be ran to illumination circuit. Basically, you're going to use a circuit when you turn on the headlights or the parking lights. This will turn on the lamp on the inside. Now I'm going to extend this wire using some 16 gauge material. Now the butt connector and the extra wire does not come with the kit. This black wire, which I've now converted to brown wire, what I'm going to do is actually run it back outside underneath the truck. We need to go back outside anyway to run this barb fitting with our remaining airline tubing back to the compressor. We'll bring our brown wire with it. To help us run this back through the grommet, I'm going to use my tubing cutter and put a little angle on it. That'll help it guide it through a little bit easier. We'll also tape our brown wire to it and bring it back through. I'm going to use about an 8-foot length of brown wire. This will be more than enough to go reach underneath the truck. It worked. We'll pull the rest of our airline tubing through. We'll go ahead and connect up to our remaining barb fitting. We'll let that set for now. We'll take a ring terminal and we'll use another self-tapping screw and attach some sheet metal underneath the dash. All right, now I'm going to use a self-tapping screw, just like the same screw we used before, to hold our loom clamps underneath the truck. Go ahead and drill it out first. And then I'll add my wire. We'll go ahead and put our gauge into place. We're using self-tapping screws to hold it in place. This does come with hardware, just like we used on the compressor to install it on the back side if you had the room. With the gauge mounted to the dash, we'll go ahead and take a few moments to tidy up our wires and secure them underneath the dash. For small wires, we're going to use some loom material to help bundle those up. We'll be using part number 7509-10. Now let's go ahead and take the rest of our airline tubing and our brown wire we added to our extension, and let's go ahead and run that down through the engine compartment, following our previous airlines and wiring. We'll go ahead and stop for a moment and route our brown wire to our main wire harness on the truck. We looked at the taillight to see which one was a running light circuit, and we found yellow with a green stripe. Now the kit does come with two quick splice connectors. In this case, I'm going to substitute that with a heat shrink butt connector. These two ends I'm going to twist together. And I'm going to use a heat shrink butt connector that's good for 16 and 14 gauge wires. We'll apply some heat to our butt connector and secure it up. We'll go ahead and tuck everything back to the wire harness, and we'll go ahead and retape it up. All right, back to our airline tubing here. We need to run this through our compressor. Let's get our compressor ready. Let's take out this plug and we'll install the airline fitting. This is our fitting and it'll just thread up into place. We'll go ahead and get it finger tight and tighten about 1.5 turns with a wrench. go ahead and cut our airline tubing to length. And for this, we push in our airline tubing to the fitting. Same thing as our T's. Push it until it stops, and then go one more time. We'll go ahead and use the rest of our airline tubing for our intake. This is the intake with the filter. The little adapter fitting is right here. It just simply threads on. Finger tight will probably be enough, but a 5/8 wrench will work as well. We'll heat up our airline tubing and slide it onto the barb fitting. Let's take our intake and install it. We have to locate this in a protected location away from road spray. In this case, we're going to actually attach it up in here, and we're going to use a pre-existing hole as a pilot hole and enlarge it. Now the bit size we're using is a 15/32. Let's take our filter. This tab will push through the hole, push it through, and it clips into place. Okay, let's go ahead and heat the end of our airline up. We need to put a little bit of a twist in there, a loop, if we can. That'll provide for a condensation trap. We'll put it into place. Okay, well now if all these connections made, we'll go ahead and take a few moments to zip tie everything to keep it all safe and secure. Our last connection will be to the battery. This is our fuse holder. We need to add a ring terminal to it. Go ahead and add some electrical tape to help protect it. We'll add it to the positive side of our battery. We'll loosen up this nut using an 8mm socket. Put the ring terminal in place and then reinstall the nut. So we'll take our extra wire, we'll just tuck it in down out of the way so there's plenty of room for maintenance on the battery. We can go ahead and try it out. We'll push our button up to raise pressure. Okay, and with that, that'll finish it for Firestone Level Command II, part number F-258 on this 2011 Ford F-250 Super Duty.